Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this edition here of the Meta Steel podcast. Right now, you can see me, Charles Project Ritchie, and on me on the left side of the screen, I am joined right now by the host of the Mike Bomb, as well as writer for the Steel Curtain. She is, of course, Michaela Bogan. She can be followed on Twitter and Instagram at Shaymax Sports. Right now, we're getting ready to preview the 2023 NFL Draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right now, a lot of stuff has been happening. Right now, this could be officially Omar Khan's first official draft, as he's taken the job last year in May, replacing Kevin Colbert, who previously served for over 22 seasons as the Steelers GM, won 2 out of 3 Super Bowls, and Khan's been around there a long time. Michelle, it's great to have you on. Thanks so much. How's everything with
Thank you for
you?
having me on.
No, no, no question. Well, anyway, right now, just to recap right now, Steelers going to this year, they're going to have 7 total selections. They'll have 4 in the top 100. Last time they had that was 5 years ago, back in the 2018 NFL Draft. Now, tackles have not been selected often in the first round. It's only happened 4 times, last since 1996, 29th overall, as they're the defending AFC champions, in which they fell short to the Dallas Cowboys in Super Bowl 30. The Steelers, under Bill Cowher and Tom Donahoe, selected Jermaine Stevens, North Carolina, a A&T right there. Now, his son, as everybody remembers too, his son, Junior, passed away 3 years ago, back on September 8th, 2020, at the age of 20, due to complications of COVID 19. Right there, sad loss, nonetheless to say. But the other times, right there, as I mentioned, the Steelers did draft a tackle in the first round. The first time was beginning back in 1955. It was the 6th overall pick. It was Frank Verchioli of Notre Dame, who became a 5-time Pro Bowler. 1968, it was 10th overall, Mike Taylor of USC. And then, of course, prior to Jermaine Stevens was 1992, 11th overall, Leon Stacy of Miami. Only one Pro Bowl selection right there. And as far as offensive lineman goes, for right now, the Steelers drafting in the first round. Only one has been selected in the Hall of Fame. Of course, that was Alan Faneca, who was selected as a guard back in 1998 at 26 overall of LSU. And right now, it's been very interesting, Michelle, as we look at everything right now. There's been a lot of speculation right now. The Steelers, which was very key right there when they traded Trace Claypool back this past offseason to the Chicago Bears right there. At the time, it was projected to be 39th overall for the second round, but the Chicago Bears bombing out, ending the season on a 9-game losing streak. That fortunately became the opening pick in the second round, which could be argued as an extra first round pick. But due to the Miami Dolphins having to forfeit their pick in the first round, it still counts as a second round pick. So it starts off with that right there. Real quickly, when you look at your observation, especially like the last 4 or 5 years right now, beginning with Mika Fitzpatrick, and how much optimism and your gut feeling telling you right now? Because Omar Khan has definitely said, I mean, they're definitely looking to be a little bit, uh, all options are on the table, being aggressive. Maybe not so much the 17th overall pick, but it looks like the 32nd overall pick, they may be fielding offers for. What do you think? Because Pierre King has pitched the idea that the Bears would be willing to trade back once again. They're already in the 9th overall spot after trading out of the number 1 overall pick of North Carolina. I mean, the Carolina Panthers, excuse me, to be in the 9th overall spot. Do you think the Steelers will move up? Would be surprised if they moved up to number 9, grab defensive tackle Jalen Carr. To do that, they would be surrendering their 17th and the 32nd overall pick they got for Chase Claypool. In return, they would get the Bears' 9th and 64th overall pick. What's your thoughts? Where do you think it's going to go in this opening round, especially when they got top 4 picks in the top 100?
Okay. Well, like you said, They do got 4 picks in the top 100, which is the first time as my life as a Steeler fan, I'm witnessing that. So I think like they might be moving the 32nd overall pick, but I don't see them moving any others. And that includes the 17th overall pick because defensive tackle ain't your only need. We mentioned that they need offensive line still. They need at least one more left tackle. I think, they replaced Dan Moore this offseason just a little bit with signing Holy Combs and them guys in the offseason. But Kevin Dotson is the offensive lineman that I have the most questions about. But I don't think they're going to be taking an offensive lineman with the 17th overall pick. I think, Ben Roethlisberger, Ben hit it on the note best when he said that he think the Steelers are going to go straight defense with the first 2 draft picks. And I think so too, because to me, even with signing the defensive tackle from the Chargers, we haven't really seen them make, along with, Patrick Peterson's from the Vikings, which I was shocked about because I did not expect him out of all people to be in Pittsburgh, but I'm glad that he is. He could definitely be a mentor to a lot of these young guys in the secondary. Along with, whoever the Steelers are going to take in the first round, which I do think is going to be a cornerback. I think, if anything, here's what I think they're going to do with the 17th overall pick. Let's start there. I just think that they're definitely going to take a cornerback because they got a cornerback number 2 in Patrick Peterson's. I think, they have their slot corner. They can either put Austin Mollett or Levi Wallace in the slot. But they need a shutdown corner. They need someone who's going to be there for at least a good 5 to 10 years. And even though Patrick Peterson is the now, who's going to be the future? And I don't think he's going to be able to compete in the future. And that's when you're the Steelers and you got a young offense surrounded by Kenny Pickett, Najee, Deontay, George, Pat, and all these other guys. You're definitely going to be looking to build the defense that's going to be able to carry the load for a while till the offense fully develops. And while they got their future on the offense, they got the now and the future on the defense. They're gonna find a player within the 17th overall pick. I think they're gonna shoot their shot with the player that best fits that. And I really think it's gonna be a cornerback. If they're gonna trade up, I think they're gonna trade up and get a cornerback. I really do. I don't think they might sit back unless, Emmanuel Forbes or Joey Porter Jr., who most likely is gonna be a Steeler, I really think. Falls, or you never know. You never know if Gonzalez from Oregon is going to fall. You never know because Najee Harris wasn't supposed to fall. Kenny wasn't supposed to fall. Pittsburgh was not supposed to have all these guys. Pat Freiermuth was not supposed to fall. So you really don't know what's going to happen in the draft. You can predict this, you can predict that. But I don't see them trading both the 17th and the 32nd overall pick because their need for cornerback, their need for offensive line, and their need for defensive lineman, defensive tackle. If anything, they could trade the 32nd overall pick and get a safety because that is a need as well. Even though they did sign DeMonte Kazi back, even though they did sign New from the Buccaneers, you need someone to replace Terrell Edmonds, and I don't think either one of them is your answer. You need a shutdown safety and a young safety that's going to be able to play the line while, you keep Mika in the secondary because that's where I think Mika's best fit. Even though he could definitely play all over, that's why he's so versatile. He's right, to me, the best, but in many's list, one of the best. But he needs backup. So here's what I do think they're going to do with the 32nd overall pick. Because I don't see safety going high in this draft class. Everybody's prioritizing offensive linemen, which is, to me, more deep than they are promoting. They're prioritizing wide receivers because barely anyone has weapons anymore. Cornerbacks is definitely going to be a priority because it's a high power offensive era, and you're definitely going to need a secondary that can hold and lock up. Just in case your defensive line can't get home, and you're definitely going to need defensive linemen and linebackers and things like that. So I definitely think D linemen and linebackers might go earlier than people are projecting. But here's why I'm bringing all of this up. I think they're going to go cornerback with the 17th overall pick. So yes, I'm pulling for them to get Joey Porter Jr., but I wouldn't mind if they get, if they trade up with that 17th and get Christopher Gonzalez out of Oregon. I wouldn't mind that. And I
right?
would not mind if they sit back and draft either Joey Porter Jr. or Emmanuel Forbes with either one of those picks. I think one of them three are going to land with the Steelers and with the 17th or whichever, pick the Steelers trade up for. But with that 32nd, I got the Steelers. They're either going to go offensive lineman, so they're going to get the tackle out of University of Florida, Osiris. Um, or they might just go and reach and get Brian Branch from Alabama. He's liking Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's liking him. His position, strong safety, is a definite need. You need answers for Terrell Edmonds. You need backup for Mika, and you need somebody that can lock up, play the line. And I've seen a lot of film for Brian Branch, and he kind of, in some way, with obviously less athleticism, kind of reminds me of Doran James a little bit from the Chargers. So that's gonna be a good sign right there. And yeah, that's where I think they're gonna do. I think they're gonna go defense for both rounds because in the end, I think the offensive line is more set than people want to say. We only got questions now about Kevin Dotson. We don't really got questions about anything else because everything else looks pretty legit and good on paper. And we've seen how well it progressed last year. And the fact that you got two offensive linemen from the best offensive line last year in football who can play two positions, they might not be as aggressive, but you still need answers for defensive linemen because Cameron Hayward's your now, but who's going to be your future? You need cornerbacks. I think you need another cornerback. I think Patrick Peterson is legit pickup, but he needs somebody to back him up. And you need safety because you need someone to back up Minka. We got people that could play the slot. We got people that could blitz and play the line, but we need someone who can deep cover in both positions. So therefore, I believe we're going to go cornerback first, safety afterwards. So I got Joey Porter Jr. or Manuel Forbes being the first ones that we get off the board. Either one of them with the 17th overall pick. But I also have Brian Branch being the 32nd overall pick. So I think if the Steelers are going to trade up, they're either going to get him or they're going to use the 17th overall pick and trade up and get Gonzalez out of Oregon.
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting too. I mean, like you mentioned like the defense picks, of course, with the secondary, basically with the corner and the safety, pretty much. But I will say this though too. Here's a couple factors you got to keep in mind, Shay, in my opinion, when you look at this right now too. I mean, they've been in the 4-game playoff losing streak right there, and
Exactly.
I don't mean to slight anybody like Joe Hayden or Cam Sutton. I think they did a solid job during the regular season. But no disrespect to either of them. I loved having them around, but let's face it. What did they do in the playoffs when your defense was giving up 40 points a game? And keep in mind, two out of those four quarterbacks were eventual Hall of Fame quarterbacks, Super Bowl winners, and Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. Who's the other one they really lost to? Like Bortles back with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then Baker Mayfield, who's looking like proven to be a bust right now. We don't know what kind of quarterback he's going to be. I think of anything because that's been a real troubling thing, though. And Joe Hayden, who had retired, remember a year ago, due to like a foot injury that finally caught up with him. Remember, he had a season. It was a key injury during that Titans win where they slugged out back in 2021. And then watching Cam Sutton go to the Lions. Because I'll be honest with you, here in Chicago too, when you look at like Montgomery, running back of the Bears, who have one of the most prolific rushing offenses behind Justin Fields right there since 1984, over like 38 years right there, basically. So I mean, because they're probably looking to get like a running back and Bijan Robinson to replace Montgomery. I think as the Steelers would look to get Joey Porter Jr. because I think if they don't move anywhere, I'm with you. I'm looking at Joey Porter Jr. as their first pick right there. And to be honest with you, too, not too often they selected Hall of Fame quarterbacks in the first round. I want to say safe to say Rob Woodson was the last one back in 1987 under Chuck Noll.
Yeah. I
Based off
definitely,
those reasons, yeah.
yeah, those reasons alone. And like you said, we've always seen cornerback number twos. We hardly seen a cornerback number one. And looking back at it, our cornerback number one will be a number two if he was on any other team or any other great defensive team, because not too many teams are great. But I'm thinking like obviously the expectations would be for them to compete for the AFC North this year, and I definitely got them doing that regardless. Regardless of the draft, I really do. But
So
I really
same.
believe that this draft, though, is not just going to have them compete for the AFC North title, because already they're going to do that this year. They were technically doing it last year when they were freaking 3-6, and to me, that's not a good sign for the other three teams who practically had everything together. Pittsburgh was the one who came into this season last season saying, questioning who's their quarterback going to be, who's the future going to be. Obviously, you drafted Kenny for those reasons, but everyone, are we going to stick with Mitch? Are we going to switch to Kenny? What's going to happen in the future? Blah, 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 blah. Everyone else is pretty much set for the 5 to 10 years within that position, which is the most important position in football, because the team is only going to go as far as the quarterback in their play allowed them. That's just straight facts. It's been proven. Obviously, quarterback and defense will allow them, correct me, because defense can't make stops and quarterbacks can't make good enough plays. Your team's not going anywhere, regardless of the other talent. It's just straight like that. That's why defensive players are now starting to get paid as much as the quarterback, or almost as much. They're starting. Obviously, the market has increased over the years because of that. And then you have you have the quarterback who is the signal caller, pretty much. The one who's pretty much supposed to make it all happen, call for it all to happen. But back to the basis of defense. Offense wins games. Defense wins championships. This offense is young, so it's going to go through development either way. Either way, it's going to be development. Now, this year, while they're still developing and they're still building chemistry, because this is a young offense and it's still coming together. We had life last year. What, one game out of the playoffs? One game. And everyone, except for the Steelers, were all 500 or better before January. That's not a good sign for the AFC. The Jets just got Aaron Rodgers, so excuse me for my language, but they just saved their ass with that one, because I don't think they should have came in with Zach Wilson as the starting quarterback after last year, because he cost them the playoffs. Let's call it like it is. Ain't even about the injuries. The injuries played a role, but he cost them the playoffs. He played like crap, practically ever since they beat the Steelers in Acrisure, which I'm really pissed about. But back to the basis about the defense. I just think like Mika needs backup, because while you got people to back up Cameron Hayward, you got people to back up, TJ Watt just a little bit. You did get some good run stoppers and linebackers this offseason from the Dolphins and the Commanders. You still need a cornerback, number one. You still need a safety for Terrell Edmonds, because you still need a safety too. We got, safety 4 and safety 3, and we got our 1 with Mika Fitzpatrick, but who's going to be your 2? Every Batman needs their Robin. And while we got Robin in the cornerback position and Batman in the safety, we need Batman in the cornerback position and we need Robin in the safety position. You can get that out this draft. It's pretty deep, but I want the best talent there is at the time. It's time for us to pick. That's what I want. I want the guys who are ready to start now, because that's what we're going to need. We're going to need guys who are ready to play now, who's ready to start now, who's ready to continue to develop now, because no matter how high talent you are, how much more advanced, how much more advanced than your classmates you are, you're going to, without question, need some time to develop, because it's still going to be an adjustment to go from high school, college to the pros within a decade span. It's like you're going to 3, and we all know that the pros is a whole nother game. They're not going to treat you like a young kid coming to the league. They are, but they're not. You're not going to get treated in a good way. So, you got to show them that you're here. You got to show them, like, this is what you're dealing with every time you play this team, as long as I'm here. And this is going to be the future here. And it's going to be pretty damn good. That's what the type of players I'm looking for. That's the type of cornerback we need. I think Joey Porter Jr. growing up around the Steelers, knowing the standard, understanding it, respecting it like his father, who's not going to play that crap, which would definitely help out this team right now. I just believe that he, without question, will be the favorite to land in that 17th overall pick. Because while everyone's looking at Emmanuel Forbes, everyone's looking at Christopher Gonzalez from Oregon, obviously, because he's the best cornerback on paper. People might be looking at Keely Ringo. he might go before Joey Porter Jr. I think it's pretty stupid for him to go before Joey Porter Jr., in my opinion. But once again, this is what Pittsburgh does: capitalize on people overlooking great talent, capitalize on people's stupidity. And I think a lot of people are going to play dumb again in this draft, overlook Brian Branch, overlook Joey Porter Jr., and you're the Steelers with the 32nd and the 17th. Okay, the 17th and the 32nd overall pick, and you pass on both, and they're both right there at the 17th and 32nd overall pick for you to take. Then no offense, no disrespect, but you're just a damn fool, because you need a cornerback, you need a safety, to me, just as much as you needed offensive lineman. And the offensive lineman class this year is way deeper than the cornerback and the safety both. So you could definitely get Osiris with the 44th overall pick, or you could definitely trade up that 44th overall pick and get Osiris out of University of Florida, and you'll be just fine.
Now, I wanted to ask you real quickly, switching from defense to offense right now to another trade rumor that was floated out there. I'm sure you caught wind of this too the last couple of weeks right now. More particular, wide receiver Deontay Johnson. Now, granted, yes, I mean, they've been showing signs of getting away from the Steeler way where they don't mortgage their draft capital, but I mean, they kind of broke that. 'Cause I truly believe with the Mika Fitzpatrick acquisition, let's be honest, Shay, if Ben Roethlisberger does not have season-ending elbow surgery, I don't think that trade's happening. To be honest with you, I don't think they're doing that because they view that guy as a difference maker to fill in. They missed out on him on the year before in the previous year's draft. Well, instead you got Terrell Owens. They were trying to find Ryan Shazier's replacement due to his severe ending injury, which proved cut out his career. But when you look at Deontay Johnson, here's the thing. Yes, he still leads the team in receptions and touchdowns. But the biggest thing that a lot of people have been magnifying real close, it's been a lot of the drops right there. And no disrespect to Deontay, but him, just like Chase Claypool, when they got traded out of town, excuse me, during the season right there, one thing that remains true about the Steelers even to this day, you don't want to mess with a locker room chemistry right there. And I think character has something to do with that because Deontay Johnson, as much as people from like 93 to 7, the fan, like Jeff Halfborn, I believe it was, who's usually on the Cook and Joe show, he was saying a lot of his teammates stood up for them. I don't believe that. I just feel like it's like coincidental how you call it your quarterback at the time right there. I mean, with everything that they've been struggling, where it's from Trubisky going to Pickett right there, losing a close Sunday night game and a losing streak to the Miami Dolphins. Here, Chase Claypool mentioned about splash play. Well, I tell you what, right now, if the Steelers are the trade right there, one of the things they're looking at, can they trade up with the Texans for some odd reason right there? And here's the thing right now to keep in mind. If the Steelers are to trade Deontay Johnson, they're better off on doing it after June 1st. If they do that, they'll be saving $10.5 million of cap space while eating up over $5.83 million in dead cap. Now, if they do it before, it's barely half the cap savings at $4.6 million, dead cap of 11.66. What's your thoughts on that right there? Do you see a potential trade happening? Maybe not with the Texans, but someone in the draft, only because I feel like you got the new nucleus of players in there, beginning with Najee Harris, the Fryer move, George Pickens right there. I mean, shortly after they got Kenny Pickett in last year's draft. What do you think? Do you think they make a deal, if not during the draft, but sometime, like around June 1st, where they could save money? What's your thoughts on that?
I think that they're not gonna move Deontay Johnson. I don't believe that they pay people that much amount of money that they pay Deontay Johnson to move him around. Obviously, he's the highest paid receiver the Steelers had since Antonio Brown back in 2017, 2018. So with that being said, I think they're going to give Deontay Johnson one more chance. But if he comes with the same production that he came with last season, then without question, they're going to move on for him, or they're going to sign him back to a cheap deal. But I think him and Kenny Pickett are building great chemistry. I think they want to keep many people around Kenny that they see that he's comfortable with as much as possible. Deontay Johnson, without question, is that. I don't think it's time to shop him because, a lot of people have bad seasons or have off seasons, and then they come back the following year, bounce back season. That's what I'm expecting for Deontay Johnson. People got to understand. new offensive system, new quarterback. You had used to having, one quarterback your first 3 to 4 years or 3 to 5 years in the league. Then you turn right back around and two quarterbacks in one season, that could be a drastic change. Then the offensive system that's really not that great in Matt Canada. Hopefully that changed this year because now it's do or die for him. He has no excuse now. You got the quarterback, you got the running game on both, your 1-2 back punch with Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. You got George Pickens, you got Pat Freiermuth, you got Miles Booking back. You also got Allen Robinson, and you got your weapons. So, and then you got a much more improved offensive line that made improvements even before making the moves they made this offseason. So it's do or die year for Matt Canada, without question. Last year, some people were saying there was no excuse because people like I believe that Ben took too much blame for a lot of crap that was on that team. I don't think he was really the problem. Still don't to this day, because nothing really showed me any differently except for Kenny can play. But at the end of the day, we even see with a mobile quarterback, things were just not clicking as well as we want them to, and as we expected them to now that Ben was gone, and there's no more excuses for anybody for why they're not being more versatile. So with that being said, I just think that Deontay Johnson's going to have a bounce back year. I don't think they're going to touch Deontay Johnson. If anything, the most they might do this year is ask Deontay Johnson to take a pay cut to add more couple of pieces to this team to make them a championship caliber team. Because right now on paper, this is a playoff team. Right now on paper, it is. Listen, say what you want. This team was 9-8 last year, 2-6 to 9-8. I don't want to hear about how easy this schedule was or blah, blah, blah. Because compare that to the rest of the schedule of the division. Think about this. The Steelers' schedule at the end of the year was the rest of the AFC North, or if not, arguably the rest of the AFC North schedule to kick off the year when the Steelers were 2-3-6 and everyone else was 5-3 or 7-2 or 6-2. No one was saying nothing when these other three teams were playing these teams that the Steelers saw when they got on that hot streak at the end of the year and the beginning of the year. They weren't. And that's what warmed them up for these other teams. With that being said, they split last year with the division. That's a good sign for the Steelers because they're in a clear rebuilding phase. We established this already. And that's a factor in Deontay Johnson's stats. And I think that's why, because when AB got his big money, Hines got his big money, the Steelers weren't like this. They were pretty much set. They just had chemistry to build on. But now that they officially got their quarterback settled, they officially got their offensive line, I believe, settled. It's just going to be playing plugging in a couple of pieces now. It's just time for this offense to get their identity. And I don't think they'll be able to get that without Deontay because George Pickens could be the number one, but who's going to be the number two? Who's going to be the number three? Can you trust Miles Boykin or Calvin Austin as much as you trust Deontay Johnson? Right now, that would be a no because we haven't seen much from Miles. We haven't seen nothing from Miles Boykin, and we haven't seen nothing from Calvin Austin due to injury. And then you can't have George Pickens out there by himself and Allen Robinson out there by himself. Someone needs to create the diversion within this offense, and it's going to be one or it's going to be another, but these things to me cannot happen right now without Deontay Johnson being in the conversation. So therefore, I think that he's going to stay put. The most I believe they're going to do is ask him for a pay cut. If they ask him for anything, and that's just going to be that, or ask him for a bounce back year, which I really think Deontay Johnson is hearing all the trade him noise and all of this, and he's ready to shut people up this year, and I think he's going to.
You know what? And the beauty about all this too, Michelle, too, I will say this. A lot of people would question, like, at some point, and we love the work that Mike Tomlin's done over the years. I think the only thing that's just been frustrating has been the 0-4 playoff drought right now, as far as like
Yes.
losing the playoffs, getting right in. Because I like to put it like this equation. I'm sure you watched Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or some classic TV shows back in the day. I look at it this way: the way they've been in the playoffs as of late, no disrespect, it's kind of like you're going to like the VIP club, but then you get bounced by the bounce for coming with fake IDs. That's kind
Yeah.
of like what's kind of happened in a nutshell. But at the same time, too, people always been questioning at some point, should Mike Tomlin, and Colbert, whoever it was at the time, should they just, like just concede the season, position themselves for top picks in the draft? I mean, of course, Art Rooney has always been supportive of him, keeping them in competition where they want. It may not be for a Super Bowl right now, but the beauty about all this is too, they stuck to their guns. But I'll tell you what, I'm not sure if the Steelers get both ways if Kevin Colbert was still there this past season. The reason why I say that, that Chase Claypool trade saved the season right there. They're able to
It
still stay
did.
competitive. And guess what? You still got high position with an additional pick, an additional second round, which is still technically argued as the first round, which is now 32nd.
It
So you
is.
still kept a
There's
winning season.
32 teams in the league, and you got the 32nd overall pick. It's clear as day what that really what that is. So that's why I say a lot of people may not ask for that 17th. I don't think they're going to give it up, but that 32nd, I can see them giving up and trading up, though. I don't think they're going to trade down.
Real quickly, let's go ahead and get into it real quick. I'll just do the top 100 if you want, real quickly. So we already pretty much covered like the first, second round picks. You believe it's going to be pretty much defense for like the opening two picks, more particular in the secondary. I would argue with the opening pick in the second round at 32nd. Don't be surprised they grab an inside linebacker. That's another position they've been struggling at too, right there. Devin Bush,
Yeah,
I
they
mean, who
need
they did
someone
not,
that can cover that
right.
too. That's why I think a lot of people forgetting that we got some holes to fill on defense too. And you don't think about this organization and not think about defense. You know, as great as Ben Roethlisberger was, we looked at Troy Polamalu, we looked at James Harrison, we looked at James Ferrier, we looked at Casey Hampton, we looked at Brett Kiesel. Yeah, we looked at Ben to come through without question because he's the quarterback, but we don't, we're not called the steel curtain because of our offense. We're not called Blitzburg because of our offense. We're not called the Men of Steel because of our offense. Ben, without question, played a factor in us being called the Man of Steel. Maybe Jerome and Hines, but we don't think of, other than that, we really don't think about offense when we mention those names. We think about defense. The Steel Curtain was built around defense. Yes, they had their couple of good picks with Lynn Swan, with John Starworth, with Terry Bradshaw, with Franco Harris, rest in peace upon his soul, with Rocky Blair, who was undrafted, and many others. But we don't think about them before we think about Mean Joe Green, Mel Blount, maybe Franco, but we think about Kevin Green. We think about Jack Lambert, Jack Ham. We think about guys like that. We think about, we think about Donnie Shell, another name. And then you go to my childhood, it was Troy, it was James, it was Joey Porter Sr., it was Casey, it was Brett, it was Aaron Smith, it was Ryan Clark, it was Chris Hope, it was Brian McFadden, who I just had on Blitzers, last week. It was a lot of these, it was those guys. And me and Brian actually got into that because we said it. Yes, we need an offense that could keep up, but you need a defense that can get home. You need a defense that's going to lock up. You need a defense that can cover. We need guys that's going to neutralize these receivers that you're playing this year. We need guys that can go to Arrowhead and neutralize guys like Travis Kelce. And they just lost Juju, but you're going to be seeing Juju ironically in Acrisure this year. You're going to need someone to neutralize him and Nelson Aguilar and guys like that. And if you are to see the Jets in the playoffs, you're gonna need to neutralize Lazard and Breece Hall and all these guys. You need a defense to do that. Then Cincinnati, you got Jamar Chase, you got T. Higgins, you got Tyler Boyd. You're going to need guys to neutralize that. I think they kind of did a pretty decent job last year with that. They didn't do as much as everyone thought they were going to. But in the end, you need guys to lock up. You need guys that are young, that are going to lock up, that are ready to play now, that will and can and will make a difference in that secondary and that defensive line and that coverage. We need those guys first. Because to me, yes, offense wins games. But how good are winning games if championships don't come with it? Defense wins championships. That's what we're going to need in Pittsburgh first. We need our defense because if we got a defense that can get home and we got a defense that can lock up, the offense pretty much is going to have to play the role of just don't screw up because you got a defense that's going to neutralize these offenses, which will give you more time. And I think they're doing a good job with getting back to the running game. Because that's another thing that allowed the Steelers to have that. People don't understand this. I'm actually glad they got Najee and Jalen right there. Because when you think about it, and this may be getting off the topic here just a little, Charles, and I really apologize for this.
Oh, you're
But
good.
when you think about it, here's a fun fact here to all the Steeler fans that are watching this, is this. Your team has been to the Super Bowl out of at least about 10, maybe 9 to 10 AFC championship games. Your team went 7 times to the Super Bowl with a running game. With a running game, they went 7 times. They have won 6 out of 7 of those times with a run game. Or correct me, 6 out of 8 times they went to the Super Bowl with a run game. Correct me. They won 6 out of 8 times.
They're 6-2 all-time Super Bowl record. Yes.
Yeah, 6-2. Here's a fun fact about that, though. They are 5-0 with a 1 and 2 back punch running core. Jerome and Willie in 2005. Franco and Rocky back in the 70s.
Words right out of my mouth.
Exactly. 5-0. This is a good sign when you have guys like Najee Harris, like Jalen Warren to carry the load. That is a 5-0 record in the Super Bowl. You want to know their record in the Super Bowl with just one running back? 1-2. That's not a good thing. You're 1-2 with just one running back. You're 5-0 with a 2-back core. That tells me right there where you need to be if you're the Steelers. That's good. They got that right now in Najee and Jalen. Now let's go to the defense. They had a top 5, top 10 defense, maybe the best defense in the league. We know in 2008 they had arguably the greatest defense. If it wasn't, in my rightful opinion, this may be me being a little biased here. The 2000 Ravens, the 70 Steelers, maybe the 85 Bears are the only defenses, in my opinion, that topped that 2008 Steeler defense. That's just my opinion on that. And we see that. We're starting to see that. But the Steelers obviously got some work to do. And it starts with the defensive side of the ball. And so 17th, get Joey Porter Jr. or Manuel Forrest if they're there. Get Brian Branch with that 32nd. You need a safety. I want him in Pittsburgh, and I think he will definitely solve a lot of problems with his tackling, his versatility, and his ball hawking skills, which to me is extremely underrated. Let's get 2 Bama boys in there. But answer your question, I just feel like that's just going to be the priorities. I just don't. Offensive lineman, you could definitely argue because, like I said before, Kevin Dotson, extremely questionable. Without question, questionable. And when you have a questionable offensive lineman like that, who, I hate to say it, Kenny's concussions came from him giving up sacks, giving up ridiculous sacks, looking dumb, looking stupid. Yes, Kenny needs to put more weight on him, which I'm glad he does. Yes, he does need to be more smarter with taking care of the football, which I hope, we saw that he is slowly but surely starting to get. But
I think just throwing other pressure for Kenny Pickett would be like the big thing to see him like improve on. I think he does good mobile wise, pretty good passer, but I think throwing under the pressure is going to be the next step for him right there too. So I'd be worried they'll try and work with him, try and get the ball in his hand a little bit quicker, implement some more West Coast offense right there. Just even simple passes like with Justin Fields, while I look at Chicago, we know he's got the arm, the mobility, but if you want to start building confidence in the quarterback, look at Joe Montana, Hall of Fame quarterback. He was a thinking man's quarterback under that West Coast offense or Bill Walsh for a long time. And it took him a while before he started throwing deep under George Seifert. But remember, what did he do early on in his career? He had smooth passes. He made short passes right there where his teammates, receivers, running backs, whoever caught the ball, were able to get yak yards a lot of times right there, yards after catch. So I think, if anything, when you want to build a quarterback's confidence, I think you need to start there. Simplify the passing game. And I think that's the beauty of what the West Coast offense could do for quarterbacks to get you to that next level. Avoid getting sacked. Avoid being on the injury list. That's what I feel like. Right there.
And yeah, you said it. West Coast offense, but I think what the best that we can get out of Matt Canada is similar to the offense then the San Diego Chargers, but now the Los Angeles Chargers got in 2007 and 2008 when they had Phillip Rivers and Antonio Gates and LaDainian Tomlinson. I think we can get that offense now. And I think what's going to make this offense better than that offense is the more players, the better versatility they'll be. The more ground dog players or groundhog players, I really, not really the best with that saying, the better physicality it'll be. So I think like you could get more of that offense along with the West Coast offense out of the Steelers. But like I said, it comes down to Matt Canada. Can he trust Kenny Pickett to hand him over the keys and take over the offense? If you want a guy to be the franchise, this is what franchise quarterbacks do. Yes, they make the team better. They make the team work around him. They definitely make an ultimate difference within presence and not presence, because we definitely felt what life with Ben was with, or how life with Ben was, but we definitely felt as well how life without him was in 2019 when we had to deal with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. We didn't want that anymore. Hence the reason why we drafted Kenny. And I think till this day, even though I wanted Kyle Hamilton, but I'm glad that we did take Kenny, because at the end of the day, we knew Terrell Edmonds was going to walk, which is why I pushed for Kyle Hamilton to be there. He would have just easily played plug-in. But we need a quarterback because, like I said, a team is only going to go as far as your quarterback allows them to. And I think this team can go pretty far with Kenny.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think the thing is too, I think they're definitely a Steelers organization. They've proven to live in their fears, what they went through in the past. Because remember, it took forever to find that decent quarterback from Hall of Fame quarterback Terry Bradshaw until they got to Ben Roethlisberger. I think the only legitimate quarterback you could argue that was middle of the pack and did okay, but he still gets slammed for a Super Bowl performance. You know what I'm talking about? Neil
Yeah.
O'Donnell right there. He was still legit, until he had the hiccup with the turnover, especially in the conference championship games. Not all of them, which Bill Cowher was 2-4 under, but I don't think they want to go for a drought like they did again. Wait for over 20 years to find your replacement with your franchise guy. They did. I mean, they're fortunate that the quarterback draft class wasn't as strong, and that's a big reason why a lot of teams didn't take quarterbacks. It was either going to be Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett at that point. But real quickly too, I'm gonna go right now, 32nd overall pick. Real quickly in this draft, I'm gonna go right now at 32nd. Should they stay in there? I'm looking at a guy like Trenton Simpson out of Clemson right there. He's got right now. Here's a guy right here who could force some. He's got great tackles for loss right there with 23 in his 3 seasons in the ACC under Clemson right there. Who could really get after it right there. He's great 6.24 in the combine, where he could be an eventual average starter right there. I won't be surprised if they go that, because their next pick after that would be the 49th overall pick right there. And I think at that point right there too, I think their next pick after that, let me know if you agree or disagree on these picks right here. I would probably go with one name that's been flowing around there, DeJuan Jones out of OSU right there from the Big Ten Conference. 6'8" right now in that area.
Offensive tackle?
Yes, I'd say with their 49th overall pick, their additional second round pick right there, 360 pounds right there. He's projected to go between the second and third round. Those would be my picks at 32nd and 49 until we find out if they trade out or not. What do you think of that? Or who else would you sub in?
Um, I honestly think he wouldn't be a bad pickup. To me, like I said, offensive lineman, to me, it's not that much of a need as people try to expand it to be or try to make it to be, because I think they pretty much answered their offensive line issues this past season when they signed the people they signed. But obviously, one more piece wouldn't hurt. And that's why I think a lot of fans are pushing for them to draft offensive tackle, because obviously, particularly left tackle, because now the only question mark, like I said, Dotson, really, when you think about it. Some people question more, but I'm looking more at Dotson because I've seen some type of improvement from Moore. I ain't really see it in Dotson. And that's why I have questions about him. But Juwan Jones out of Ohio State, and this is coming from a Buckeye fan, will be a huge steal with that second round overall pick, 49th, because to me, that's a first round talent falling to the late second round. Yeah, you got to get on that if you're the Steelers. And when you have someone like that, it will fill in the shoes because he's definitely going to need some type of development, but he's a fast learner. He's physical. He's real, let's just say he'll get down in the paint. In other words, he'll get down in the dirt. He will really mess up someone's defensive tackle, linebacker, edge rusher, name him. He'll mess them up. So to me, it'll be a great pick. I don't think, him or Osiris needs to come to Pittsburgh, and I think they'll be set at offensive line.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think right there too. So their final pick in the top 100, that'd be 80th overall. And this one I'm kind of like a little mixed on. But if I'm going to look at someone right now too that could help them as well, I won't be surprised to be looking at outside linebacker or defensive end right there too. That'd be another one to keep a eye on too. And one guy in particular who I would probably look at if he's still available too at the 80th overall pick in this year's draft, I'd be looking right now at 3-4 outside linebacker. I probably look at Nolan Smith out of Georgia right there. 6'3", 235 pounds right here. Got 12 and a half sacks in 4 seasons out of Georgia, defending national champions, by the way. Once again, congratulations. I could see them picking up him right there. I mean, for the most part, that's what I'm looking at. And the beauty about a guy like Nolan Smith too, he's a two-way edge guy too, where he can play not only outside linebacker but defensive end too. Because to be honest, you Cam Hayward too. Let's keep in mind he's got one, maybe two more seasons at the maximum under his current deal right now. It may not be a bad idea to start preparing for the future to get someone to groom under Hayward. I think they could still wait another year, but if you get that opportunity, may not something you want to like totally overlook just yet. Why not? I mean, you don't necessarily have to put him in the starter, probably be coming off the bench, but I think they need to start planning just like how they kind of similarly did for Ben Roethlisberger at some point.
Yeah, agree. Life at the Cam, unfortunately, is coming. I hate to say it because I love Cam.
Yep.
Hopefully, it's not as soon as projected usually be for defensive linemen, defensive tackles, but a person's body can only take so much. That's why I think, like, yes, you need to build for the future, but you need to build the team to win now, and that's why I'm pushing for them to get defense because you got veterans in the offense. So I think like you need to go defense. You need to go defense that's versatile, that's aggressive, that's going to make a difference, going to make big plays, going to basically enforce. You need a team full of enforcers if you're the defense. So when you have that, it speeds up the process. It allows players like Cam who deserve Super Bowls to walk out with them because I don't, regardless of how the team looks or how the team is headed into a season. Unfortunately, this is the unfortunate part about being the Pittsburgh Steeler. The standard is championships. And when the standard's not met, regardless of the team you got, it's a failure. But I think they're closer to a Super Bowl than many people project them to be because they don't believe in the team they got. But this team can be a legit team. This team is already a playoff team on paper headed into the season. The only people who I really believe that can beat this team or stop this team from going to the playoffs is themselves. That's really where it's at right now. And that's before the draft. So that's why I'm pretty pumped to see what they're going to do in the draft. But here's my advice to them. You got some couple of pieces that can get going on offense, but you need a secondary that can stop the opposing team's offense. And that's why I said what I said about them getting a cornerback, getting safety first, and then going everywhere else. Because to me, that's going to be your weakest link heading into this year if it's not addressed in this draft.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but what would you say realistically you could expect to see this team in the Super Bowl? I told a few people off to the side, I'd probably say like maybe like 2-3 years at the earliest
Agreed.
2 years, to be honest with you. Don't be
Yeah.
surprised.
Yeah, I got this team going, 3 years. I got them going to the playoffs this year. Believe it or not, they're my pick to win AFC North this year. And here's why. I don't fear the other three teams in the AFC North. I don't fear the Bengals. I don't know why people do. I don't fear a team who was practically handed the AFC North title. Start there. Then let's start with the fact that You split with everyone in the division, and everyone had to switch out quarterbacks but you. Everyone was reloading, rebuilding but you. Many people were coming over major injuries in important positions but you. I don't want to hear about that offensive line injury crap in Cincinnati because you only replaced those guys who you signed to these big contracts with the guys that you were in the Super Bowl with the previous year. So you could save that garbage for someone else who did not watch you go to that Super Bowl with those same people who replaced those people who got injured this year. Save that crap for someone else. And I don't fear a team who's practically handed the AFC North title, splitting with the whole damn division. Literally splitting. And your quarterback's numbers versus the AFC North this year was not that great. And that was when you had a safety tandem that you can somewhat fear. But we ain't fearing because we knew what we had on the other side was better. But I don't fear that. I don't fear their cornerback room. I don't fear their secondary room. I don't think Dax Hill's the answer in Cincinnati. So there he goes. I don't think I'm slowly but surely starting to see why the Steelers moved on from Mike Hilton, why they didn't sign him. I still don't understand it about Cam Sutton because him, it's a whole nother story. But can't deep cover. You can't, you can only cover short fieldage. And to me, that's not good enough. You're going to need to cover deep, and Mike Hilton cannot. Eli Apple, to me, is hot garbage. And then you got Awuzie coming off injury. He's a legit cornerback, but is he going to still be the same guy? They're going to need him to be better now. And then you got Cam Britt, who to me is just coming to a shell. So he might got some couple of pieces and a couple of works to work on, but he can be a legit cornerback. I'm being 100% honest here. And then you got the offensive line. I don't think it's going to be as good as many people projected, is projecting it to be. Even with Orlando Brown, I don't have faith in Lel Collins. I don't have faith in Alex Coppa. And I think TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith is only going to get better because they only saw a glimmer of what they're getting themselves into here on and out. And I think the Steelers are only going to get better defensively. They got my man from the Chargers. That's going to be a great pickup. Many people want to sit there and laugh, ha, ha, ha. But there's a reason why Charger fans were pissed off when that guy came here with Cameron Hayward and them guys instead of elsewhere, or instead of back with them or somewhere else with a team that doesn't seem like a threat. Then you have Cleveland. The Browns are the Browns. Do I have to explain that any further? I don't think so.
No arguments there.
Then you have the Ravens. The Steelers and the Ravens will always be rivals. But 9 times out of 10, as of lately, the Steelers have gotten the best of the Ravens. Lamar Jackson doesn't have his best numbers against the Steeler defense. If you have a quarterback like the Ben Roethlisbergers, like the Kenny Pickett's, that can at least game manage, you could definitely come out there with a W. Now, the Ravens and the Steelers can definitely split. They did it last year. Obviously, the Steelers got the best of them these past 2 seasons, but in the end, they don't have that caliber quarterback no more. They are on board of building one within Kenny. With all of this being said, I don't fear this division. I don't see the Steelers losing more than 1 game this year in the division, and that's only with them splitting with the Ravens. They might split with the Bengals or the Browns. If anything, they just might split with Cleveland and sweep Cincinnati. That's really where I'm looking at right now. I don't fear this Bengal team. I really don't. I don't see the hype in them. Everyone called me a Bengal hater, but I don't see it. I really don't see it. I see them win flukely. They act like they dominated. Really haven't. Kansas City has dominant wins. Buffalo had dominant wins, even though they spanked Buffalo last year in the playoffs. We get that. But was that the same Bills team that we saw play against the Rams? No. Was that same Bills team that we saw them play against the Steelers? No. And that might make a difference this year because they might have to go back to Buffalo this year, and this time with a more vulnerable secondary. Now let's think about this. Can you really put that much faith in their offensive line? Because we heard the same crap last year, and we only heard excuses when they were getting obliterated by TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward, Alex Highsmith, Miles Jack, Minka Fitzpatrick, and others in week 1. I mean, they got embarrassed. That was embarrassing. And what did we hear? Oh, they need more time to build together. Blah, 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 blah. We wasn't hearing that, around this time of the year before the season. We was just hearing smack, 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 who they. But the Browns are the Browns. I think, if anything, they might split with Cleveland. They might not, depending on what the Browns do. Or they might just sweep the Browns, because that's usually what happens. Browns are just Steelers' little brothers, even though they give the Ravens a run for their money. They spank the Bengals in some way. And then you got the Ravens who just, it's going to be our rivals, but is Lamar going to play or not? Are they going to be able to build around Lamar? They acquired Odell. Okay. Who's your other wide receiver behind Odell? Because you got Odell. You may have Rashad Bateman if he's still there. You got Mark Andrews, but you got a legit running game, but The offensive line, I'm questioning. Your offensive coordinator, I'm questioning still. Your head coach, I'm not going to question, but it could definitely be some couple of question marks. What are you going to do for Lamar? What are you going to do with Lamar? That's going to be the question. Who's your quarterback going to be? But it'll be complete foolish of me sitting here, especially growing up as a late 90s, 2000s baby, Steeler fan, sitting here writing the Ravens off like they're nothing. So no, I'm not going to do that foolery. So I feel like they're going to split with the Ravens. They're going to split. It's just bound to happen. That's what makes it a rival. But I see them sweeping everyone else. I really do, especially if everyone stays healthy. So I got the Steelers to win AFC North this year. I got them advancing to the divisional round. I could definitely see them winning their first playoff game, but that's as far as I got them going for right now.
Yeah, that'll definitely be interesting. Well, Shay, I just want to say this was fun. I will just say this on behalf. If you want to add a final note here, feel free. If I tell you one thing, it's going to feel naked this year without this year's draft. And this is where it's going to hit me and a lot of Steelers fans most. Franco Harris right there, the last 2-3 years being part of the NFL draft, especially with the Steelers, announcing those picks. When he passed away this December, and I believe we're both there in the Christmas Eve game this past year, but I'll tell you what, that's definitely where I'm going to truly miss him at this moment right here with the Pat Freiermuth announcement, and then recently is Kenny Pickett. Boy, he was. I tell you what, he
Najee
was number
Harris,
two in
don't
the
forget him.
pecking order as far as Steeler character behind Mean Joe Green in that organization.
Yeah, Franco's presence is definitely missed in Pittsburgh, no question, but no doubt without that. And it's gonna be so hard for me, to go to the airport, whether as a worker, visitor, etc., and look at that airport and look at the statue right there and just, it's pretty bummed that I couldn't get to meet him, especially before that happening. It's pretty bummed that he wasn't there to see the honoree of his own jersey, his own contribution to this organization and to the city of Pittsburgh. But he would definitely be thought of. I think, not if, but when that Super Bowl comes, it's definitely going to be dedicated to him. That's why I'm glad that we did draft Najee because, in some way he kind of reminds a lot of us old school Steeler fans of him. But the fact that he announced Kenny, announced Pat, clearly that's in the back of a lot of, of them three heads. So I'm pretty sure they know what to do from here on and out.
Well, Michelle, I want to just say thank you once again. It's definitely a pleasure. I know it's been some time, a lot of time's been passing by, and it's just a matter of time for you and I got to connect and speak with each other. It really was. This was fun. Thanks for taking the extended time with us here, especially myself right now. As well, I continue to wish you the best with everything you're doing with the Still Curtain and then the Mike Bomb with all your contributions right there. Please continue to check her out right here on social media. Once again, you can follow her on Twitter and Instagram at Shaymax Sports One Only, Michelle Bogan. Michelle, continue to stay safe and let's enjoy the draft. And
follow Blitzers while you're at it.
You got it. You definitely will. All right. Well, as always, leave everyone here. Don't be trolling, be rolling. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. We gone. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching the Meta Steel Podcast with your host, Charles Price Ritchie, here on YouTube. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button. And for all the latest Meta Steel Podcast episodes, feel free to download them on Mixcloud, Anchor.fm, and SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts.